Hi, I'm Dane, and today I'm going to talk about the Oceanic regionals that just happened this weekend that went by over down in Melbourne. There was, I think, roughly like 132 players, and it was a good time. I really enjoyed myself. I had a lot of fun. I really enjoyed seeing a lot of the people who have become really, really indentured in the community and love to play games against and say hi to every time I see them at regionals. We had a lot of standout decks this time, so thank you to all the players who came in the top 8. You managed to make sure that, as always, everybody is going to do their best to call us a fake region. But I'm really finding that this is way more diverse than I thought it would be. And that's a whole nother topic for another video. Personally, I was prepping for exactly Sakuya and Royal Knights and also the Megidra Mirror matchup. But yeah, no, this was really cool to see the decks that made the top 8. Some of them very surprising if you haven't seen who came first at our regionals already. It's super unfortunate that we didn't have any way to stream the events. A lot of the times we don't, unless if I guess like I put my hand up. So I love doing these top 8 breakdowns because it's awesome being able to give the players the credit that they deserve for coming into the top 8. So yeah, without further ado, let's get straight into it. I'm talking a little bit softly, no YouTuber voice today, considering I've been talking all weekend, and yeah, just a lot of speaking, so my voice is a little bit slow at the moment. I also just want to note a lot of these deck lists, because now we're using the Bandai TCG Plus app, there are players whose names I just do not know in the top 8. They have their little names up at the top with 8 Infinity 8, for example. I do know that this is Alex, and I will be saying the players' names who I know. But yeah, congratulations, Alex, for coming first on Galactic. This is crazy considering. Personally, I played this deck a lot in practice because I really enjoy it, and it was a lot of fun to play. But I found with the builds that I was using and with all of the tempo that I was trying to gain in every single game, I often found that for me personally, either I was going too fast and building a Galacticmon stack, and it would be not a very good stack because my opponent is an aggro player and it would just get washed out, or I would play too slow, too greedy, and my opponent would aggro me down way too quickly. So I'm really, really happy to see that this came first, if I'm being honest, because this deck is very, very fun. A lot of people were talking about this deck being extremely good. I didn't get to see any of Alex's matches, but yeah, a couple things to note that surprised me a little bit personally when I first saw this list was that there are no scrambles in this deck. When I was playing the deck, seeing a scramble, being able to chuck it in Digivolve for an even further reduced cost was awesome. But I can totally understand taking them out if you want to add more of your Venmons so that all of their effects, either through suspending Venmon to tuck another one underneath in search, or just playing one out, always works for you. And you're rarely I guess missing on those searches, considering that my brother in Christ here has 19 Venmons, which is a pretty high count, but I think it's pretty worth it because when turn two, walk out that second Venmon, suspend them, and miss, it's the worst, and it is definitely one of the bigger pain points for the deck a lot of the time. Other things to note here is a third of the secondary Destro. Obviously, we run four of the best Destro. Any hybrid deck gets their ass eaten under this. There are really cool ways to play against Galactic as a hybrid player that we saw from Nick as like on Purple Hybrid. But with Destro specifically, the secondary one, I do like 3. I think it's cool. You need to see those pieces. You need to make sure you're seeing it. And at only 6, sometimes you will be just digging and digging. But this deck has every capacity to dig so much through its deck. For this Zenith that is, a memory setter that when it gets played, it searches the top 3 plays out of Mmon, and also you can grab any card. This deck, again, just searches so much. 3 Fusion Eyes, totally agree with that. Love that. 3 Galactic is a little bit surprising, considering that like it's the pinpoint of the deck, but with Fusion Eyes and every other searcher in this deck, you're always going to find it. I definitely, when I saw it at 3, I completely agreed with this, considering that, like, yeah, it's once you have one, you only need one because you'll Fusion Eyes in from the trash into another Galactic the same Galactic even sometimes when you see it. So I totally get it. I know one of my mates was always saying like, "Oh, if I ran three, there'd be three of them in security." Yeah, sometimes you just got to run those odds. But congratulations, Alex. I think this is a really cool list. I'm probably going to play it more because I love Galactic. This shit is so much fun to play. Let's move on. Next up, we have Nick's second place purple hybrid. Congratulations, Nick. You did it. Good shit. Took you 3 months of telling me about how good purple hybrid is, but you got there in the end. Not quite first, but I get it. Nick was telling me in the finals that against the Galacticmon player Alex, that he found none of his Duskmons after being just tearing through his deck the whole time, which is a big problem for this deck. Personally, I'm surprised you got as far as you did and found every single Dusk and Velga at every point of the game, because for me, every time I play this deck, I am having trouble because it's just nothing but searching and never find, and you find Dusk or you find Velga, but you never really find both. And that's just how I've had a little bit of unluckiness with purple hybrid, hence not even bothering to practice it for the event. And then I just end up like rivals barraging until the end of time, like from hand, because I just couldn't find it, sort of thing. So just a fun little tidbit, I guess. But this deck has been pretty crazy. Like when this deck goes and everything falls together, like you go, Uko into Uko in raising, as well as, Velgamon swing, delete everything, swing again with the superior mode. You've got your Gallants and to clear for game. You've got Nidhogg and every other way to gain memory. This deck does so much. I don't really need to do a huge explainer on this deck because we've seen Purple Hybrid. It has changed a fair bit with this list, considering that, Superior Mode wasn't a thing before. The Promo Gallant obviously adds to how good this deck is. And you'll notice as well on the far right that there is a Demonic Disaster in this deck. You pointed out that the Demonic Disaster won him a game against Gallant, which is cool because, it's always there to just clutch up that one extra check. This deck doesn't need extra memory, so a one memory unsuspended Digimon delete something else, and a lot of the time if it's a rookie, you're gaining that memory back with Cupimon anyway. It's pretty cool. It's cool to see like just the little Demonic Disaster in there as well. But yeah, seeing 4 of the memory boosts totally made sense as well as soon as I first saw this list, and because considering that all you want to be doing is like searching for Dusk and Velga for the most part, like most of these cards are put around here to do that, but this deck is fast still. Purple Hybrid is still really good. And we're probably going to see it again in a second. But yeah, congratulations again, Nick. Good job. We're moving on to the next one. So we got third place. We have Chef, aka Carl, from what I remember, because I versed him in the third round, and he bodied me, to be honest. To be fair, I made like a tiny bit of a mistake and I just committed to it because obviously I'm at a regional, so I'm not going to say, hey, can I take this back? No, I have to commit to it at that point because I know it's coming. It was the Darkdramon you see at the bottom, which I expected to see a little bit more of in Hunters lists. I did not really expect to see Hunters that much at this event, but I did verse 2. And it was one of the matchups that on Megidramon I just hadn't practiced very much. I knew what the deck does. I knew what the deck did do, are doing, because it's a good deck. I just, when I played it, but I was thinking to myself, I couldn't do this for 8 rounds, but it's very, very good at the moment. And yeah, the Darkdramons being teched in are very, very good against Megidramon, especially if your opponent, the Megidramon player, does not know how to make a secondary stack, which, playing against Carl made me learn how to do as I went into my second Hunters matchup. But if you don't know what this deck does, essentially its entire game plan is I need one more turn. And it gets that one more turn every single turn somehow. It's very, very good at being able to just play out Tamers, and then once you have 4 Tamers down, you can activate your Watchmaker to give a Digimon a Sec +1, and then you have 2 level 5s in the superior modes that will both swing without suspending. So the newest one is when Digivolving attack without suspending, and that allows you to raid, pierce over any Digimon, which is very, very strong. It gains so much DP, and also its older brother, the older BT12 superior mode, is end of turn swing again. So a lot of the time you're doing your best to gain as much advantage as possible, as much value over time, and then you are going to use the Watchmaker to swing 2 checks, and then end of turn and /or when digivolving, swing again, swing for game. I don't know if there's a hell of a lot I even need to say about this deck, because it is very, very similar to how Hunters played back in BT12, just with some new upgrades, and those upgrades are really, really, really good. But this is a deck that a lot of people expected to be, a contender for the meta, and I'm glad that it's showing up, because it's cool. I love that we're using the Darkdramon. I think besides me, a lot of people were talking about, possibly putting it in, and I totally agreed with adding it, solely for the fact that like the devil himself in Megidra is very, very susceptible to this. Again, if you don't know how to make a secondary stack, or you just don't have the memory to, if you didn't find your gravity crushes or something like that, it allows you to swing on the Digivolve of superior mode, and swing again even, and then if you just need one more turn, you're kind of just able to sit on that possible ace over both of your level 5s, and if your opponent swings, you digivolve 1 and then pop the lowest play cost. And then a lot of the time, if your opponent has like hella committed to this one Megidra and you delete it on the by digivolving it back to the level 5, and they're only playing out 1 Gallantmon, and they were playing super close to 0 or 2 or 3 memory, it's a lot of the time it can be lights out for them at that point. So cool to see. I like this list a lot. I didn't get to see the Quartz one come down, but I definitely agree with it being in there. Gives you one more turn. Congratulations again, Carl. Good stuff, kicking my ass and then pushing all the way to 3rd. All right, so here we have Anya's 4th. Sorry, I don't actually know your real name. There are a couple who I don't know. But Annya, congratulations on getting 4th. This is Gallantmon X. Still showing the world that this deck is pretty darn strong. 3 Gallant X, 2 of the regular Gallants. We got the 1 and 1 of the promo and the secret Gallant. We got Crimson Mode. We got Takuya in here. And just, the rest of the X antibody line, as well as the best in the War Growl from, I think it's EX2, if not EX4. It's probably EX2. But this deck is really, really strong. It is an incredibly powerful OTK deck. If your opponent just gives you that breathing room for half a second, you can just explode out of raising and just one-shot your opponent super quickly, which I imagine would have been very, very easy for you to do a few times. But yeah, no, this deck is pretty awesome. I did finally have a chance to actually play some of this, because I felt like, playing a bunch of Megidra, I figured I might as well try it, and there are more combos to this than I actually expected, and it's cool. I like the tech in of the 1 Gallantmon Rush. I don't know if that's a tech, because again, I haven't looked at many of these, Gallant X lists, but the Gallantmon Rush is probably going to get hit soon at this point, considering it is a card that is marginally tech-inable to a lot of like decks nowadays, especially red decks. All get to utilize this little dude who just gets played out, gains Rush, goes crazy on your opponent. You can make a second stack, whether it's in Megidra, whether it's in the Dragonkin Medusa, whether it's in Gallant X. This guy is showing his face everywhere. Got a lot of searches. We got 6. We have a few in the rookie lineup as well. And just a good old strong-ass red OTK deck. You'll love to see it. Congratulations, Annya, on your 4th place. We'll move on. Next up, we have Ari's 5th place, Purple Hybrid as well. This is the player who came 3rd at the championship in January. He played really well on Purple Hybrid back then as well. And yeah, just doing it down sexual style. This is the Luger version, looking at it really quickly. And I will say also, it's cool to see Spirit Evo being used. Glad to see my prediction kind of coming true, at least a little bit. But this is a cool list as well. Obviously, I'm not going to pertain too much on this because we have already seen Nyx. Sorry, you're the second hog on Purple Hybrid, so you just have to deal with the quick summary. But same kind of thing, hyper aggro. We got things like superior mode Gallants all there to do their best to hit our opponent to 0 as fast as possible. Medieval Gallant is here to, keep your opponent from playing the game sometimes, and, just dealing with some of those more stringent, more difficult things to deal with. But we do have the Luga package with Lugamon at the top and the Code Cracker Fang, which allows us to gain a memory and also just play a tamer out for free whenever we need to, which makes this deck a lot more fast in terms of that sort of thing. The only issue is that you kind of have to have both of them at the same time, but I'm sure at 3 and 3 you're going to see it enough times that you want to. 4 and 2 on the Koichis, and 3 of the Spirit Evo, 3 Purple Memory Boost. Spirit Evo is sick because you can just pitch your Velga at any point. Not like you have any problems actually pitching your Velga in this deck, but being able to pitch it and then draw 2 as a even more advantage is awesome. 4 Rivals and 2 Death Slinger, so that, sometimes you just need to pay for smash something, get it off the board, or better yet, you just mill it off the top, and it's nice. This is cool. Love to see it. Good job, Ari, and I'll see you on the next one. All right, we got friend of the channel, as well as the other few friends of the channel, Sean Gooden, Gilmon Bread on the Megidramon. Honestly, I was a little bit surprised to see that you're on Megidramon, because at this point, I just expect Gallant, but I understand considering that this is the mildly the same Digimon, essentially. But showing it up for me, considering that I only got 19th, and the brother in Christ has gotten 6th place. Good on you. That's awesome. But this deck is fantastic. I cannot stress enough just how fast this deck is if your opponent is not willing to respect just out of nowhere. Even you as the player can sometimes be comboing and just trying to gain a little value and then suddenly go, oh shit, I can win. This deck is crazy. We saw a few lists come out from the Paris regionals with the Skull Greys and Analog Youths and whatnot, and I did give that a shot a few times as well, and those decks are like pretty good if you're trying to outvalue your opponent by gaining value through Analog Youths and popping your Digimon and then going back and erasing, and then you can do another combo the next turn and still stay safe, stay on tempo, or using the Skull Grey for exactly that same thing, deleting your opponent's Digimon, but also sort of gaining, momentum by searching, digivolving, trashing, putting things into your trash. But in my opinion, the Skullgrey version really, really hurts itself in the mirror because you're putting so much into the trash, you're playing for value. Whereas this version of the deck with 3 Gravity Crushes, sometimes 4, I was gonna run, and just 7 ways to Sunday of doing your best to OTK your opponent, in my opinion, is just much better, considering that this is a deck built to go so much faster. And if you verse it in the mirror and you're playing this value game and you're just putting stuff in trash, you're just making this deck's life easier. The cool thing about Megidra is that, like, on one side of the coin, it is incredibly linear, it is kind of newbie friendly, but the lines, the variables, the points of play get incredibly, it's like a tree, right? Like, there's so many different ways that you can change your lines, build a second stack, swing for the Growlmon X, play out another Gilmon with Rush, or play out a Digimon that'll search and trash and draw 2, and then you just keep moving from there, because once you've drawn enough through your deck, trashed enough through your deck, and you've only been sitting on a rookie and doing this kind of value loop, you'll just go, oh shit, I can do it, and then you'll go Gravity Crush, Gravity Crush, Gravity Crush, and then OTK your opponent out of nowhere. And that can happen pretty much at any point in the game. I know there were games that I did it on turn 2. There were games I could have done it on turn 2 had I have found the Rush Gilmon, but I just didn't. So I had to wait another turn, and that makes it a lot more difficult, because once you've committed, which is one of the very, very, fundamental differences in a good Megidramon player and not, is knowing when to push the gas on Gravity Crush. Because if you just ain't seeing it and you're like, 2 memory away from maybe search with the training or purple memory boosting and finding your Megidramon, for example, or that missing piece, and you choose to Grav Crush for that, and you don't find it, and everything goes to shit from there, because then you have to give your opponent 3, 7 memory, and just life is hell. I will say, I hope that this is the deck that gets Gravity Crush banned, or limited to 1 at the very least, because your opponent is suffering a little bit when you go, oh man, I don't know, Grav Crush, Grav Crush, Grav Crush. You think as the player who's been watching your opponent kind of scuff about on a combo for a little while that it's close to the end, and then suddenly they're killing you. Plus 2, I will say, again, on the point of using Grav Crush as a way to search, it's still pretty crazy considering that, like, you can just Grav Crush search, and then put your opponent to 1, and then they'll set, and then you'll end of turn lose 3, and then they'll set to 3 anyway with a memory setter anyway. And even if they don't have a memory setter, that can still be a fine play to do, and you can just push advantage. Considering that there are so many ways in this deck to set your opponent to 1, the level 4s, the 2-cost in Digimon I designed, the wisdom trainings, the calling from darkness. All of these cards are super cheap, and they really help you to just push that little bit with the Grav Crush and then a search, and then set to 1, they go to 3. That's not really that much to give them in the first place. So using that as well in that sense is really good. This deck is incredibly strong. I don't know if you can hear that. Anyways, I could talk for ages about this deck. It's actually a lot of fun if you're the person playing it. I know it's horrible to watch the combos, but playing it is a lot of fun. Congratulations again, Sean, Gilmon Bread, on coming 6th. Good job. I wish it was me. Okay, this is Tamaki's 7th place list. Again, sorry, I don't know your real name, but congratulations as well. So Sakuya is a deck that I personally don't really have a lot of reps in on. I can look at this from, a spectator's standpoint, but I have just, for the most part, refused to play this personally. But the deck itself has like a lot of deck building choices that I see a lot of people changing and choosing to go through, which is really cool. I'm liking seeing a lot of these different choices in things like the Shushumon, for example, seeing at the level 4. Considering this is something that can plop out a security, play out a token, and if that token dies, it'll -3 your opponent. But more importantly, that I imagine that you and anybody else who's playing cards like this and the Starmon is for the fact that it is, because it's barrier and it's inheritable. That is one of the strong parts of these lists, is a lot of people are deciding to use barrier because when you hit your combo turn and you're being able to digivolve into Chaosmon Volta Arm and do 2 checks and unsuspend because of Sakuya X and then do 2 more checks. If you hit anything in security and it were to die, for example, like Royal Knights, Omnimon X, or any of their big Digimon like the Oyukin, it's the last thing you want to have happen is have your entire combo ruined by 1 card in security. So play some barrier, make sure you don't die. We got 2 different ruin modes. This card is incredibly good at keeping your Megidramon opponents off of you, and most decks really. Keeping your opponent in raising and out of your way for a whole turn is often good enough. One of the biggest strengths of this deck is its ability to just absolutely tear through itself. You're being able to draw for each Digivolve each time you use one of your option plugins, which, I'm not even seeing the green option plugins, let alone the Rikas here. You're usually able to draw 1 back as well as draw 2 from Sakuya and draw another card from Digivolving. Now, let's dig into that point as well. We're seeing a little more lists and at the moment that are using no Rikas, no plugins, but instead choosing to use things like more boosts and noble family arts. So obviously there is 6 boosts here and another 4 trainings and then 4 scrambles. Oh, my bad. I didn't even see the other 2 boosts because of the different alt changes to them. But yeah, so 4 boosts, 4 amber boosts, and then another 4 trainings, as well as the Noble Family Arts and the 4 yellow scrambles, which rounds out all the options for this deck. Just a lot of value. And that's one of the things that I did have issue with this deck, sometimes playing against it. I'm 0 for 30 against this deck at this point. I'm so glad I didn't see any on my run at the regionals. This was the deck I was probably the most prepped for personally. But yeah, seeing Noble Family Arts, you get to -6 and then a lot of the time minus another 6 because you'll have 3 bodies out on field with things like the tokens being played out by like Pipe Fox and Sakuya X's other one. Little surprised that there's only 2, 2, and 2 of the Sakuyamons, but I totally understand it when you have like 12 searches. That's insane. But again, that's kind of what this deck does. It just moves out, it gains a lot of value, and kind of is like, I might see my combo, I might kill you this turn. I'm killing you this turn, or I guess I didn't see my combo, and now there's a bunch of things you have to deal with on the board, and you're forced to move to actually like deal with that turn. And if you don't deal with it, they get to kill you next turn. If you do deal with it, they have a bunch of boosts and trainings that will just fuck you up next turn anyway. Really cool list though. I do like to see a couple of things like the one of Talmon, the one of Talmon Ace, which allows you to really play from a terrible position if you have to, by just playing it out and then playing an option and then digivolving all the way to things like ruin mode in an instant. Considering that happened to me way too many times in to play testing, saved us in the 3v3 as well. That's why we came first. But yeah, Wizardmon is also here as well because it's very, very strong protection. Helps you to keep from dying. This deck is strong. This deck is really, really strong. Congratulations again, Takamii, on getting 7th place. We'll move on to the next one. Okay, last but not least, we have Ro in their 8th place in Red Purple Virus Imperial. If you know me, you know I don't like this deck. Honestly, I was completely surprised to see this in the top 8. I thought it had just dropped off the map. It is incredibly funny to say I don't like this deck when I'm playing Megidramon. They're very, very similar in their playstyles. They are just hefty combo OTK decks. This one just has much, much stronger recursion than Megidramon kind of has. In a sense, it just kind of depends. But yeah, this is Red Purple Imperial. Congratulations, Ro. Again, don't know your name, sorry. But this is cool to see. I think this is a cool list. I would say that this is, from what I've seen, very, very staple, except maybe the one of Demonic Disaster. I don't know how to build this deck, I will admit, but I can see it for how it is, right? You've got all of your rookies that are designed to both search, and then the Wormmon that is just incredibly strong at recurring. If your opponent is ever able to out the body, a lot of the time you're playing out a Wormmon that is going to digivolve into a level 4 for free, which will set off the entire chain of events that allow you to get all the way back to your dragon mode, let alone your fighter mode. Obviously, I assume that like a lot of people aren't running this deck at events because the Shadramon promo is extremely expensive. I haven't looked at it in a little while, but at the time that we last saw it, it was like $100. It has been reprinted in this most recent event, so a few of us pulled that. I got one. Maybe I'll play the deck. But this is cool. I do like the 1-in-1 of those 2 different XV and Stingmon that allow things like deleting, a 3k and deleting a level 3, and then also having kind of this, when digivolving, you may DNA digivolve with a card with free in trait. The Shadramon promo is at a 4 of still. This is an incredibly strong card. And then you have a lot of other cards here that are technically end of turn DNA to just allow you to really push into your thing for always so cheap. This is a deck that is really good at being able to DNA and for free on its level 5, and then being able to get into its level 6 for pretty cheap, and then being able to stop your opponent from playing at least a little bit when they get into the fighter mode. The dragon mode at least makes it so that your opponent is, deleting everything and except for one Digimon, and then the fighter mode is often cleaning that up by going blitz, raid, piercing over something, also making sure that your opponent can't like play tamers by effects, and pushing that extra damage through the trash your opponent's security card. And then if anything somehow lived through all of that, we are, just deleting something, anything, all turns when a card is removed from our security. So if your opponent isn't paying attention to exactly fighter mode, they'll have a really hard time walking into something like that by accident, which happens at regionals. A lot of us are always a little bit anxious and nervous to start with in the first game or two, and you'll make a mistake without really realizing it, and it can cost you a lot because a lot of us aren't going to let you take it back. So it is what it is. This list is pretty cool. I think if I somehow managed to get all my hands on the Shadramon promos, that at some point I'll play it, but it is not on my priority list. Congratulations again, Ro, for playing Red Purple Virus Imperial to a 8th place. That's really good. Anyway, so that's all the top 8 lists. Thank you for watching. If you haven't yet, please subscribe. And I'm going to blabber here for a little bit about how my experiences kind of went at the regional, because I really enjoyed myself. And, I don't really want to make an entire video just dedicated to, oh, here's my 19th place Megidramon deck profile. And then it's just 3 fucking grab crushes. I would have run 4, but at the very last minute, I realized I don't I didn't bring a fourth one with me, so it is what it is. I think there were definitely a few games where I would have been able to clutch out had I have seen a fourth Gravity Crush, but it is what it is. It's also like part of that is that I just didn't know some of my matchups because I didn't expect to verse Hunters and I didn't expect to verse Gammamon because who's playing Gammamon at the moment? That deck is surprisingly good. It's very, very strong. And it was a deck that infuriated me ages ago because I played so piss poor against it. And to see it again, I was like, oh, here we go. And then the person who was playing on it was very graceful, very nice, and I just really enjoyed playing against them. So thank you, Jake. I had a good time, except for in the first game where I last check hit the security effect level 4, which played out a Digimon, and then all of my effects triggered verse to play out Guilmons, and then his effects triggered to delete all my Guilmons. So that wasn't fun, man. Fuck you. But it was incredible. It was still hilarious that every 2 seconds I had to be like, does this card really do that? Do you get to do your effects before mine? And I'm calling over the judge just to make sure. But, my opponent is playing the deck and I don't think I would expect him to lie to me at a regional, right? But no, it was good fun. The other game I lost was just on Hunters. Again, just hadn't been prepared for Hunters, and I could have slowed my play down heavily because I was rushing through to kill them as fast as possible. That only ended up shooting myself in the foot. But I did take that Hunters knowledge to my next Hunters matchup a few games afterwards, and got away with it by the skin of my teeth on that one too. Man, that was a close game. But yeah, came 19th at the regional with Megidramon. A lot of fun. I really enjoyed playing the deck because it's pretty cool to just be able to fucking combo for a little bit and then you kill your opponent and then walk away with another 20-30 minutes on the clock and have a chill one, say hi to people, see how my mates did and whatnot. And did the best out of all of my mates. Sucks to suck, fellas. And then the day 2, we went and played 3v3s in the Ultimate Cup. And we won that. So that was cool. Me and 2 of my boys came first. Shout outs to Aaron and Ben for coming first with me, clutching up in that final game because I threw by 1 memory. So, but they managed to clutch up their games and finish out the set, running undefeated up until for 4 rounds. And I did pretty well in every other game on that as well. But it's whatever. I'm just sitting there to combo my opponent. I don't really mind whether or not I'm gonna win or I'm going to not win, I guess. Got all my browsing here. I thought that I had way less than I do, actually, considering I was having a little bit of a whinge on the day 1 about not getting that much in terms of prizing. But it turns out that we actually got a fair amount. This is all of the event pack and the reprinted things like Rival's Barrage and Shadramon. But by playing day 2, I actually got much more than an amount that I actually liked. Usually they hand out things like packs from boosters. But they didn't this time around. Here are that's finalist. That's another finalist one. Stop focusing on my face. And this one as well, which is really cool. We got all these participant set stuff, and I don't have the Ultimate Cup Shoutmon to show you. I have these 2 Shoutmons because when I got the Shoutmon, I just sold it immediately to a mate who needed to play with Shoutmon in his deck on the day. So yeah, but these cards look awesome. They look so nice. I love that they're textured. And it's cool to have them because it's kind of a little bit of a trophy, as always. Maybe we'll put it up on the desk here with all the other stuff as well. Awesome days. I would have played Alphamon on the 3v3 if I could have, but my mate wanted to win, so I said, let's win, I guess. And lo and behold, we won. But Alphamon was a lot of fun to play at the in friendly games and stuff. Anyway, thank you for watching. Thank you if you stuck around this long. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And I'll see you on the next one for another breakdown, another video. I'm really thinking about doing a video specifically about Megidramon, but kind of how it fits into the format as a whole. So I'll see you hopefully on something like that in the future. Peace.